Hey everybody. I'm going to go through another ELA activity from the choice board today. Been getting a lot of good feedback that you guys are enjoying these videos and I hope that they help. Please know that whatever I put in here is optional in terms of the interpretation of it. You do not have to use the articles, you do not have to use the text that I choose. You can do the activities as you interpret the article or as you interpret the information that's given to you. These are just my interpretation, and know that we're being super flexible during this time. We know that schedules are different and everybody's abilities are different, and the expectations are that you are completing one of these activities daily for a total of 30 minutes. So if you find what I'm giving you is a little bit too long and you want to take some of it back, or if you want to try it in a different way, or you want to for example, today we're talking about characters and things like that. If you want to post on Seesaw, you feel free to. If you want to do a pic collage showing your information, definitely do that. If you want to just write it down in a notebook and turn it in when you come back to school, that's okay too. We are here to support you and we are here to help you. So whatever we can do as your teachers, know that we're all here ready to help and ready to support you. And I hope that this is a tool that can help you. All right, so for today, I chose to do Literary 2RL2, which is reading a fictional book. So far I've done an informational, and then yesterday we did an article with vocabulary, so that was another informational. So I thought, let's go ahead and do a story, fictional story. So I've actually gone ahead and done what I have been doing, which is just breaking it down into the components. So it's just reading the book and then ask them to identify the following, which maybe we can put into some sort of format on Seesaw, or you can use, like I said, use a notebook or use index cards, sticky notes, things like that. I'll show kind of my example after we read the story, the setting, the problem or the conflict, and then usually one of the things that I would have them talk about is the solution. So there is, in almost all of our texts that we read there, especially our fictional stories, going to be a problem and a solution. That's something that we use to determine that these are fictional stories and not informational stories. And then the lesson the character learned and the message learned from the story. So it's kind of like the lesson that the character learned and the moral of the story. So in particular, most of the time I put these are often the same, but not always, depending on the book that you're reading. If you're reading the one that I'm reading with you guys, it's a new story that I'm not super familiar with, so we're going to read it and explore together. I thought that would make it a little bit more authentic, and we will see how it goes. After that, there is one more component, which is to create a postcard that they could send to a friend that summarizes and explains the central message of the story. So again, the lesson that we learned from the story. I think that this would be a fun way if you could actually send out the postcard to a friend. Since we're not able to get together with our friends, this would be a fun way to stay in touch. You could share the book that you read and share what you came up with in terms of the message and give them a quick summary. Second graders have been working a lot on summaries, so hopefully you'll have some good practice with that. So if you haven't been on Epic yet, I know that for my class personally, we did send out links for everybody, and I know that a lot of students are familiar with Epic. I know that second graders use it. It is an app that is normally paid for at home. However, they've extended, due to the digital learning that's having to take place all across the country, they've extended their free ability to be at home as well. So if you need a code or something, please reach out and we will get that for you. But this book is on Epic, and I will share it with my class so they can have access to it. Or when you're on Epic, you can just search for it. It's called Not Yet a Yeti, and it's written by Lou Treleaven and illustrated by Tony Neal. And I love this little dedication right here: to you, whoever you decide to be. I thought, honestly, I have not done anything with this book yet before. It was under the new section, and it just spoke to me with this rainbow because that was kind of our theme. So for the other day's learning. So what's nice about Epic is I can click on the words, not, and it will have pronunciations. It will also tell you various parts of speech, which is something we work on with our mentor sentences. Yeti. It's if you haven't checked out Epic, definitely do so. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So not yet a Yeti. George's granddad was a Yeti. His mom and dad were Yetis. His sister was a Yeti. All of George's families were Yetis. All of them except for George. Let's take a minute and look at all the pictures and notice that there's George poking up in every picture. When will I be a Yeti? George asked his granddad. When you can survive alone on a frozen mountain waiting to lure stray hikers to their doom, Granddad growled. Well, I don't want to lure stray hikers to their doom, said George. Granddad put his massive paw on George's shoulder. George nearly fell over. Then you are not yet a Yeti, Granddad said. When will I be a Yeti? George asked his dad. When you can chase people round the mountain until they scream with terror, Dad said. I don't want to chase people until they scream with terror, said George. Dad hugged him. George couldn't breathe. You are not a Yeti, Dad said. When will I be a Yeti? You're one already, George said to his big sister. When you can leave a footprint in the snow that makes people gasp and dread, big sister said. Well, I've only got small feet, said George. Look. Then you are not a Yeti, big sister said, accidentally stomping on George's toes. Poor George. It's not fair, George said to his mom when she came back from chasing some hikers. I'm still not a Yeti. Well, do you want to be a Yeti? Mom asked. George looked inside his head for the Yeti he imagined he would be. He wasn't there. No, said George. Mom put on some soup. She hadn't caught any hikers that day, so it was just vegetable again. Well, then what do you want to be? George looked back inside his head. Finally, he saw it. I want to be a unicorn. His mom stopped stirring. Are you sure? Yes, said George. I'm not a Yeti. I'm not even not yet a Yeti. I'm a unicorn. And as George spoke, a sparkly horn appeared on his forehead. His arms and legs grew hooves, and a mane and a tail swished onto the bits, where manes and tails go. Derek, Mom yelled, you'd better come in here. George has turned into a unicorn. Dad let an earth-shaking roar. George took a deep breath. Dad, I don't want to frighten people. I want to help them. I'm not yet a Yeti, and I never will be. Dad scratched his furry head. Well, he said, we do love chasing hikers, but if we keep eating them, they'll become extinct. So maybe we could chase them, and you could rescue them. George's granddad was a Yeti. His sister was a Yeti. His mom and dad were Yetis. All of George's family were Yetis. All of them except for George. So looking back at this choice activity, it says that you should have your student identify the following. So they don't even have to write it down. They definitely can. They can write it down in a notebook. They could write it down in a format that I'm going to show you in just a second here. They can also leave a video comment on Seesaw, telling us all about the characters. If they chose to read a different book, have them hold the book up and say, hey, this is the book that I just read. Here's the characters, the setting, the problem, all of those things. I chose to make an activity board here where I just wrote each of the components on sticky notes and went through and talked about who the characters are, what the setting is. One of the things that would be good is ask them, well, how do you know that it's in a snowy mountain? Well, looking at the pictures, looking at things like that. Talking about the problem. I left out the solution on this one, but then I went into George's lesson and the message, and I kept those two separate because I did feel like the message for us as readers was a little bit more in depth than just George's lesson there. So this is a format that you could use if you wanted to. And then the last component was to make a postcard. I just searched and found a postcard template and then just typed in on top of it. You guys could write your own postcard, create it out of paper and cardstock. You could actually find one and mail it out to a friend, which would be kind of fun since you're stuck inside the house and not able to see each other except for virtually, if you wanted to communicate in a little bit of a different way. The postcard did say to create a summary, so I kind of started with an introduction, did a quick summary of the book, and then also talked about the message of the book. And then we talked about in our Friday letters, having an opening, but also having a closing as well. So make sure that you add that to that. I could probably post this picture on Seesaw for you guys to edit if you want to do it digitally. Again, all of these are suggestions and you don't have to do it. Take a piece of paper, a notebook, and do it on that if that's what you wish. But I hope that today's video was helpful, and I hope that you guys enjoy this activity. If you do it on Not Yet a Yeti, please make sure that you are thinking about it in terms of your own words. If you choose to do a different book, definitely share those with us. Look forward to seeing it. Bye.